Today we'll take a look at George Orwell's 1984. Now, it's not a light read, but it's well worth reading or listening to on audiobook, because he didn't write it as some sort of far-off fantasy, and it's definitely not some sort of utopian outlook. In fact, it's the very definition of dystopia. And despite being written decades ago, it is so applicable when you look around at what is going on today. And he summarizes a lot of these dynamics that are happening in 1984. So where exactly does Orwell take us in 1984? The setting is Oceania, but we're not talking about some tropical paradise. No, this is a bleak, joyless world where everything, and I mean everything, is controlled by the government. This isn't just a government, though, it is the party. And they have perfected the art of domination. They don't just rule over your actions, they rule over your thoughts. And that is where the real terror lies. Oceania is one of three superstates. Constant war is the backdrop to everything. Now, war in this context isn't even about victory. It's not about gaining territory or even resources. It's about control. The constant state of war keeps people afraid. It keeps them in line. And most importantly, keeps them dependent on the party. People in Oceania don't question why they're at war. They've been trained to accept it as the norm, much like we see today in many parts of the world where endless conflict is just part of the daily news cycle. You don't have time to worry about your personal freedoms when you're too busy fearing the enemy, whoever that might be. And at the top of this oppressive regime is Big Brother. Now, Big Brother is a genius creation. He's not even a real person. He's a symbol, an ever-present face on posters, telescreens, and the minds of every citizen. Big Brother is watching, always. Whether he physically exists or not is irrelevant. What matters is that you believe he's watching. Every move you make, every thought you dare to have is under the eye of Big Brother. This constant surveillance, this inability to escape, is the ultimate method of control. And Orwell understood something very powerful here. When you know you're being watched, you start to police yourself. You censor your own thoughts, your own behavior, because you're never sure if today's minor infraction will get you a visit from the thought police tomorrow. So now let's turn our attention to the characters, because each one shows us a different path in the face of this totalitarian nightmare. So first we've got Winston Smith, the protagonist. Now Winston is a broken man from the start. He's not some brave hero charging into battle against tyranny. No, Winston's just trying to survive, trying to find some shred of sanity in a world that's gone mad. His job at the Ministry of Truth is perhaps one of the most ironic things Orwell could have come up with. Winston's entire career revolves around rewriting the past, literally changing historical records so that the party's version of events is always true. In Oceania, truth is a fluid concept, completely malleable based on what the party needs the people to believe at any given moment. Today's hero is tomorrow's enemy. If the party says 2 + 2 = 5, you better believe it, or at least pretend to. What's tragic about Winston is that despite the overwhelming odds, he still holds on to this tiny glimmer of hope that things could be different, that somehow, if he just rebels in small ways, maybe, just maybe, he can hold on to his humanity. He starts keeping a diary, which is an act of pure rebellion. In Oceania, thinking for yourself is illegal. Writing down your thoughts, especially if they go against the party, is a death sentence. But Winston does it anyway, because he's desperate for something real, something true in a world where lies dominate everything. And then we have Julia. She's Winston's lover, but unlike him, she doesn't care much about the big picture. Where Winston wants to take down the party, Julia is more interested in rebelling on her own terms, in her own way. She's practical. She knows the party can't be overthrown. So she focuses on the small, personal acts of defiance. Meeting in secret, finding joy in forbidden pleasures. Julia's rebellion is less ideological and more about carving out a small space for herself in a world where there's no room for individuality. She's not interested in grand revolutions. She's just trying to live her life without the party dictating every moment. Now, O'Brien is where things get really interesting. O'Brien initially appears to be an ally to Winston, someone who shares his disdain for the party and might be part of a secret underground resistance known as the Brotherhood. But O'Brien is the ultimate snake in the grass. He's not just loyal to the party, he's one of its enforcers. He's the one who ultimately betrays Winston and shows us the true extent of the party's power. In the novel's most disturbing moments, O'Brien is the one who tortures Winston, not just physically, but mentally. He breaks Winston down, teaching him that resistance is futile and that the party's control is absolute. In a sense, O'Brien is the embodiment of the party's philosophy. There's no room for dissent, and anyone who dares to rebel will be crushed. The plot of 1984 is a slow, agonizing descent into hopelessness, and that's by design. Orwell wants you to feel the suffocating weight of the party's control, and he does it masterfully through Winston's story. At the beginning, Winston's just trying to survive. He's going through the motions, doing his job at the Ministry of Truth, pretending to love Big Brother, all while secretly hating everything the party stands for. When Winston meets Julia, it feels like maybe there's a chance for something better. They fall in love, which in itself is an act of rebellion in Oceania, where even personal relationships are monitored and controlled. They have to meet in secret, away from the prying eyes of the telescreens. And for a brief moment, it seems like they might be able to carve out a little bit of happiness, a little bit of freedom. But this is Orwell we're talking about. And in 1984, there's no happy ending. Winston and Julia's affair is doomed from the start. The Thought Police, an organization dedicated to rooting out and punishing any form of dissent, are always one step ahead. They're caught, and what follows is one of the most harrowing depictions of psychological and physical torture ever put to paper. Winston is taken to the Ministry of Love, which, as Orwell's twisted sense of irony would have it, it is where people go to be broken. O'Brien is the one who personally oversees Winston's destruction. Through a combination of pain and psychological manipulation, O'Brien forces Winston to confront his deepest fears in Room 101, a place where the party knows exactly how to break you. By the time Winston's spirit is shattered, he betrays Julia, and in the novel's final devastating twist, he comes to love Big Brother. His rebellion, his individuality, his humanity, all of it is erased. So now let's take a look at the themes, because 1984 isn't just a novel, it's a cautionary tale. Orwell didn't write this book just to entertain. He wrote it to warn us. And those warnings are more relevant today than ever. The first theme that Orwell is communicating is that of totalitarianism. The novel is a scathing critique of totalitarian regimes. Orwell was writing in the shadow of fascism and communism, but the lessons of 1984 apply to any government that seeks to control its citizens completely. In Oceania, the party doesn't just want to control your actions, they want to control your thoughts. And once a government can do that, there's no limit to their power. The second theme is that of surveillance. One of the most frightening aspects of 1984 is the idea of constant surveillance. The party watches everything, and the people know it. This forces them to police their own behavior, to conform out of fear. Sound familiar? In today's world of social media, government monitoring, and data collection, Orwell's vision of an all-seeing authority feels eerily present. A third theme, which Orwell brings across so clearly, is the manipulation of truth. In 1984, the party controls the past, the present, and the future by controlling information. They rewrite history, and the people accept it because they've been conditioned to do so. This theme hits particularly hard in our age of misinformation, where the line between fact and fiction is often blurred on purpose. Another theme is language as power. Orwell understood that language shapes thought. In 1984, the party creates newspeak, a language designed to limit the range of thought. If you don't have the words to express rebellion, you can't rebel. It's a chilling reminder of how powerful language can be used as a tool of control. Finally, there is the theme as it relates to the loss of individuality. Ultimately, 1984 is about the destruction of the individual under the weight of an all-powerful state. Winston's defeat is not just physical, it's the complete erasure of his identity. He no longer exists as a person, only as a tool of the party. So why does all this matter? Because Orwell's warnings in 1984 are not just fiction. They're a reflection of real dangers, whether it's government surveillance, the manipulation of truth, or the erosion of personal freedoms. The lessons of 1984 are as relevant today as they were when Orwell wrote the book in 1949. And that's why this novel continues to resonate. It's a reminder that if we're not vigilant, if we don't stand up for our freedoms, we could very easily find ourselves living in a world where Big Brother isn't just a symbol, but a reality. I hope you enjoyed the synopsis, and if you're interested in reading the full actual work or listening to it on audiobook, there's a link in the description as well as in the top comment. You can use that to order it off Amazon and have it delivered to you right away.